Hello, everybody. Oh, my loves. I am so excited to be here with you. I am Angela Winfield. I am a blind inspirational speaker, success coach, and transformational author. I help motivate, educate, and inspire people to reach their absolute highest potential, to share their unique gifts in the world, and to ultimately create a life you absolutely love living. So today, the topic is working through fears. And it's something that everybody has to deal with. It's something that I've dealt with myself, and I hope today in this hour to help you work through whatever fears you're dealing with right now. And some of you may know me and be familiar with my story, but others of you may not. So I just want to share a little bit about myself so that you know where I'm coming from with this. Long time ago, when I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with multiple conditions, uveitis, glaucoma, cataracts, and juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And it never affected me. You know, I had knobby knees and large joints, and I had some eye conditions, but I could see. Right? So I was fine. I had a normal childhood. And it wasn't until I got into middle school, when I was legally blind, that I realized that this condition would affect my eyesight and that it would change the way I would interact with the world. And as my peers were, getting their driver's license and looking at career options, I was doing the same, but I was realizing it was going to be very, very different for me. And that's when my fears really started coming in, and that's when I really started to hate my life. There was no one there that looked like me. There was no one out there that looked like me, and I didn't know what was possible. I questioned everything. Would I be able to have a career? I wanted to be a lawyer. Was that possible for someone like me, being legally blind? Would I ever find someone to love me, a man to love me? Was that an option for me? And I just didn't know. I thought for the longest time that no, this just wasn't an option for me. And thinking that, I wasn't sure how I could go on. So that was a really deep, dark place for me. And I moved through it slowly. And I thought, well, I can still see some. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pretend that I can see and hide this other part of me because I could pass. Until I was 20 and in college, and my worst fear came true. I had a flare-up and lost the rest of my sight. I was completely blind. There was no hiding it anymore, and I was faced with the same choice. What do I do? What's going to be possible for me? And am I willing to walk through and work through my fear to see what's possible? Back then, I decided yes. Yes, I was. And I walked through that fear, and I created something that is just phenomenal for me, a life that I love. I am that attorney that I wanted to be. I do have many, many people that love me, including a wonderful husband. And I'm happy and successful and satisfied. But what does that mean, really, for you? What does that mean for you? What it means is that because I came through that, I had the realization that I'm not special. It had nothing to do with me and everything to do with the human spirit, something that's inside of all of us, the thing that allows us to overcome, the thing that allows us to be who we're meant to be and work through all of that stuff, all of those fears, all of those blocks, all of that stuff. We have it inside of us, not just me. You have it inside of you. And that's why I'm here, to help teach you and show you and support you and love you through what you're going through, so you also can create a life you absolutely love living. So today, for my very first Google Hangout, I'm going to deal with fear, working through your fears. And interestingly enough, one of the fears that I had was this very experience that I'm doing right now, this Google Hangout. Okay, so I'll be using that as an example throughout. But the first thing I want to talk about really is, what is fear? What is it? We've all experienced it. We all have it. And it's a perfectly normal thing. But what is it? It's an emotion. right? Okay, it's a physical, emotional response. We think about it and feel it in our heads. We feel it in our bodies. We feel it in our heart. Your heart might race. You might sweat. You get the jitters. That's what it feels like, right? What is it meant for? What's the real purpose of fear? And, long time ago when we were cave people, it was to protect us, right? It was for survival, so we didn't get into dangerous situations. But in this context today, and in the context of accomplishing your goals and creating a life you love, what's the purpose of fear? I mean, there is a purpose, and there's actually two of them. One is self-preservation, okay? And that's the troublesome one. Okay, it comes up because fear is trying to keep us safe. Right? It's saying, uh-oh, something's going on here that might cause some change. You're moving into new territory. You're expanding your comfort zone. And that makes you scared, right? That's where the fear comes in. It's a warning sign. And it wants to preserve you. But that's also the troubling area. It's preserving you right now, in this moment, who you are. And who you are is wonderful, but it's not who you want to be. And in order to become authentically the person that you are and want to be, you absolutely have to change, right? Right? You can't become what you want without taking action steps and moving towards that and creating that. Okay, so the fear is saying, I'm preserving you right here. Okay, so we all kind of know that. And the other thing, the other purpose of the fear, and a way to kind of shift it for you when you're looking at it intellectually, the fear is a signpost. Okay, it comes in and it says, hey, hi, something's happening. Right, and that's a good thing, because on the other side of that fear could be something wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So how does this fit in, right? So with this Google Hangout that I'm doing today, the idea came to me because I have wonderful support with my team, and they said, let's do a Google Hangout. How do you feel about that? And I was like, you know what? It terrifies me. Right? I had a physical response. I literally started to shake and say, I really don't know about this, but let's give it a try. So what was going on for me there? Let's take a look at it, because I'm a speaker. Right? So I'm not afraid to speak. I do care about it, and sometimes I get nervous before I speak and go through this, but I can speak, right? I can speak, I can talk. My husband can tell you I have no problem talking. I can, talk for hours if I have the chance to. So that's not the fear. It's not actually opening my mouth and saying the words. That wasn't the fear. Was I afraid of all of you out there watching this? You're some pretty powerful people. I know that. I can feel that in you. But am I afraid of you? No, I'm not. I'm in awe of you, and I love and respect you. But no, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of that. The technology bit, yeah, that made me nervous. Never done it before. It's something new. Is that what my fear is about? Not so much. What it was really about, and what it's generally about for all of us, and for you most likely, is that the fear isn't the actual action. It's not the step of moving forward. It's not that step of going and having that difficult conversation with your boss or your significant other. It's not the fear of taking the action and doing that diet or whatever it is that you think you're afraid of. That's not the thing that's really causing the fear, right? Because there's nothing scary about doing it. The thing that's really scary is the outcome, right? What's going to happen if I do it? What happens when I do it? What's the response going to be? Is my boss going to yell at me? Are all of you wonderful people going to shut me out? Are you going to hate what I'm doing? That is a possibility, but the other possibility, right? And this is going to help work through the fear, is the possibility of what you could create for yourself, your life, and the world. Okay? There's a love portion of it. There's a heart-based portion to the fear. Okay? And in your heart, when you actually sit and you think about it, and this is what happened to me when I was going through this, there was something that kind of just bubbled up and blossomed and said, what about your message? What about the people that need to hear you? For you, with your fear, what about the joy it will give you? What about the freedom it's going to cause for you? I actually had this very conversation with one of my coaching clients this morning. She's got something difficult that she's about to do. And once she started thinking about the freedom, the joy that will come from taking the actions that aren't so scary, that helped her move through it, move through the fear, and breathe through the fear. That's the other thing. There's this saying, as a quote by, I think his name is Fritz Perl. You know, wonderful name, right? A pearl of wisdom from Fritz Perl. But he says that fear is excitement without the breath. Okay? If you remember that, that's kind of like the signpost. The signpost. Fear is saying something is happening here, right? And then once you stop, pause, and breathe through it, it turns into excitement. Turns into a wonderful, wonderful excitement to fuel you forward. The other technique that you can use, and that I often use, because the fear is really around the attachment, keeping that in mind, it's the attachment of the outcome, and learning to let that go, is the serenity prayer. And it's really not about whether you believe in God or not. The power of this prayer is incredible. Really, it gets your mind, your heart, and your soul kind of in alignment, and it gives you the things that you need to kind of let go of the outcome. And it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's a powerful, powerful prayer, and it's actually one that I was introduced to when I was a small child. I actually saw it on a vase on my mother's dressing table, and I saw it and I was like, that's amazing. And it stuck with me, and I actually called her up as an adult. I called her up and I said, Mom, can you go to that vase and read me that prayer? And I looked at it again, and it helped me. And what it does with fear and the attachment to the fear, if we look at the prayer again, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, right? So you can't change the outcome, right, of taking those actions that there's fear around. Right? You can't change that. Grant me the courage to change the things that I can, right? What you can absolutely change is your outlook, right? Your mentality, the way that you're viewing this fear, those actions that you're wanting to take. Right? And having the courage to move through that. Okay? Kind of letting go and surrendering. Saying, I feel in my heart that what can come from this, what's waiting for me on the other side of my fear, is so great that what I'm more afraid of is not giving myself and my life that opportunity. Okay? Because that's really the deepest and greatest fear, of not having the opportunity to create that life you love. So breathe into that a little bit. Breathe into that. And I can tell you, when I was getting prepared for this hangout, yesterday we did a test run, and there were some technical glitches, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work. And for a moment, I was like, oh, I felt relief. I was like, this might not happen. And in that same moment, in my heart, I felt disappointment. I felt disappointment for myself, and I felt disappointment for you. That if I let that fear stop me, this wouldn't be happening. This wouldn't be here. And that scared me more. It scared me more, but it inspired me more as well. And as I literally breathe, and as you see me here breathing, that's what I'm doing. I'm breathing into the fear to excite myself, to deliver this for you. So I breathed into that, and here I am. Here I am, and here you are. And I absolutely know that you have what it takes to work through your fears. So now that we've kind of intellectually gone through what fear is and how you can kind of move through it, I'd love to do a little bit of an exercise, like a physical exercise that can also help you work through fears. And I'm going to do it with you. Hold on just a second. Let me grab my notepad here, because this is somewhat of a writing exercise. And if you cannot write for whatever reason, if you're visually impaired or blind like myself, it doesn't matter if someone can read it or not. If you can write it, go ahead and write it. If you feel more comfortable typing it and printing it out, you can do that as well. But if you do type it out and print it, I do ask that you write something on the page, even if it's just a line or a squiggle. Write something on the page thinking the things that I'm going to tell you and work through with you right now. So what you do is, with your piece of paper, kind of get connected to this thing that's fearful, right? What is it? What is it that you are afraid of? Right? And I want you to write that down. And part of what you're doing here is getting the fear out, getting the fear out of you. Because lots of people say, and I hear them say this, and I catch myself saying it at times too, I'm afraid, or you're afraid, and you are not your fear. Okay? I know it's a common use of language, but words mean things. As one wise man said, words mean things, and they do. They have energy behind them. They have meaning and purpose behind them. So, your fear is not you. You feel fear, but you are not afraid. You are not frightful. Okay? You feel the fear, and you want to separate it from who you know yourself to be and who you are. Okay, so go ahead and write down your fear. I'm going to write down one of mine. I'm going to do this with you, so okay. And breathe through this as you're doing it. Really think about what that fear is for you. Thing that causes fear for me. And I will share this with you at some point in probably another hangout. And you don't have to share this with anybody. That's why you're writing it down here. And then write down why you're afraid. What about it kind of scares you? You know? What about the outcome? What about the action, if it is the action? Just whatever you think. You know, I'm scared of this because. This causes fear in me because. This fear is not rational. We have reasons for it. Sometimes it makes perfect sense when we write it out. Sometimes it doesn't. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter right now whether it makes sense to you, whether you think it's a stupid reason or a ridiculous reason. Just go ahead and write the reasons down. And keep breathing. Okay. And once you've got that, what we're going to do is we're going to fold it up. I'm just going to fold it in half here. And I want you to hold this. And you may right now, you may or may not be alone. You may have people with you, maybe doing this with someone, but know that I'm with you. I'm with you, because that's one of, I have a master key system, and one of the master keys is having a network, a support network and support system. So if you have someone there with you, great. If you don't, energetically, I am with you, and the people that love you are with you. Right? And you need that. You need support to get through your fear. So as you're holding this in your hand, think about the support. You're completely supported in this. And these are your fears. Right? This is the fear out here, outside of you. It's not in here anymore. It's not in the head anymore. It's on this paper. That's the fear. That's the fear. And we're going to hold it here in this hand. And with your other hand, I want you to place it on your heart. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and just breathe into it. And what I want you to think about is that love place, right? What is it that you want from this, right? From taking these actions that seem so scary, really, really connect with that feeling of what you're going to get out of it, what you're going to create for yourself, what changes, what growth is going to happen for you, right? What's on the other side of that fear? Because there's something wonderful. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to deal with your fear, right? You wouldn't want to work through it. So think about that and breathe into it. Keep breathing deeply and really, really connect to that love space. That's in here. That's part of you. And this is your fear out here. And once you're there, once you're in that place where you're calm and serene and feeling a little bit courageous, I want you to make the choice to shred your fear. When you're ready, strip it up, shred it. Shred it. As many small pieces as you can. It's going to get tougher and tougher as it gets smaller. And how true is that for fear? You think you're through it, and it gets smaller, and it may get tougher. But keep ripping as small as you can. And you can do this with me, or you can choose not to. But ready? Throw it up. That's it. That's the confetti. That's the confetti of your celebration. That's what celebrations are all about. It's the shredded fear. With every fear that you work through and breathe through is the excitement for a new celebration, a new accomplishment, a new step towards growth, that life you love, that thing you really, really want. And now you have a mess here to clean up. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. You can just throw it away and toss it in the trash, but that's gone. That's outside of you. And really connect with the thing that's going to move you forward and move you closer to what you really want. Because the bigger fear is the fear of not giving yourself that opportunity to shine and not giving the world that opportunity to see you shine. And you have my absolute support in this. That feels good. It feels good. I'm very excited now, and my fear has completely transformed, and I'm so glad and honored to be here with you and to share these tips and tools with you. I just want to check in here and see if we have anybody on live or if there's anything coming in directly that I can respond to, because I'd love if you're there and willing to hear from you. What does this mean for you? Has anything changed? Is there something that you'd like to be coached on or walked through with this? Because I'm here for you and for that. So let's see, there might be a little bit of a delay. All right, okay. So I'm getting a message and a question about an old fear. What do I do if I have a really old fear that's been there since childhood and maybe for about 50 years? And that's an excellent, excellent question. Yes, that is a wonderful thing to have to deal with. And I know it's a scary thing to deal with, but this will work. The same sort of process that I took you through will work for something that's old. Okay? Really getting connected to what about this thing that's been around for so long is the scary part. Okay? Because you're not your fear. You're not really afraid. Right? And I know that may be difficult to hear, but you are stronger than your fear. You are more compassionate than your fear. Your fear wants to keep you where you currently are. So look at what's beyond that. You know, even if you go back to a child and say, what scared me about that back then? What was I fearful of then? Really think about it. Let yourself go there. And then think about it with yourself now. What about that scares you, if anything? You know, right now, sitting there and looking back at it, you may not be afraid. And go through the same exercise. Another thing that is a wonderful exercise to do is to go ahead and write yourself a letter to the child that you were when that fear came about. If you know it's a deep, deep wound from childhood, knowing what you know now, and after going through that fear shredding exercise and celebration, write yourself a letter. You know, use the name that you went by as a child, whether it was a nickname or maybe it's your current name, but write it to yourself from your heart with compassion, with love, and tell yourself what you know now and where you are now and where you're going because that fear has resolved. It's a simple thing. It may seem like a cheesy thing to some people, but it works. It works. It heals deep, deep wounds. I've done this many a times for myself and with clients, and it is a powerful, powerful tool, and it heals. So that's what I would recommend for a deep, long-lasting fear, to disappear it, to shred it, and make it a new celebration for yourself. New celebration. So what else can I say and share with you about working through your fears? Working through your fears is really dancing with them because they won't go away. It'd be insincere of me to say that they will. They will lessen. But as you move through them, new fears may emerge and surface. And it's really about doing that dance of saying, okay, this fear is in my head. Let me move it out. Let me move it out of the head, out of my space, and connect with who I am and where I want to go. This is fantastic, right?
It is 12:36 a.m.
So is there anything else coming in here? Let me check. Oh. How have a better relationship with your mother-in-law? Okay, that's a really juicy, juicy question. And I am so glad for you taking the courage to share that with me and bring that forward here. The fear is the outcome, right? Right? It's not wanting to disappoint, not wanting to disappoint your mother-in-law. And that's a very difficult, tricky situation. But what you really want, and I can tell by the reason that you asked the question, is that you care deeply about your family and having a loving relationship, not just with your spouse and whoever else is in there, but with your mother-in-law, who you're obviously having trouble with now. So that is to be commended. Right? And that is what the love space is. That's where your heart's coming from, right? Is wanting to be that support and wanting to provide a safe family space. So how do you approach that? First of all, get really, really clear on what you're trying to accomplish, right? You can't change your mother-in-law, right? You're not going to be able to go in with brute force and say, all right, this is what I want, right? and I'm not going to disappoint you, and I'm not going to do this. You can't make those kind of promises, right? You can't do that. But what you can do is change yourself, right? And it's a difficult thing to do, and it's easier said than done. But I'm going to tell you how you can start and take that baby step. What I want you to do is, before you talk to your mother-in-law, because you will talk to her, before you see her at a family event, and literally right before, I want you to think about the type of family dynamic that you want. Why is it so important for you to be there and have a relationship with her? What is it that you really, really want to get out of it? And I want you to believe this so deeply that it becomes true for you, right? That it becomes true. That you are able to have this, that you want to have this. And then I want you to ask yourself a question. Am I willing to move toward this? That's it. Am I willing to take one teeny tiny baby step toward having this relationship with my mother-in-law? And if you say yes, what I want you to do is, after you dial that number, if you're talking to her on the phone or you walk in the door to see her, is to come from that place of love, right? Not having to address the issues, not worrying about whether you're going to disappoint her, because obviously you've made her son or daughter a very, very happy person. And you have that love around you. I want you to come from that place and just say, "Hi, Mom. How are you today?" Right? And see what happens. And just continue the conversation or the day, if you're spending the day, or dinner with her from that place. And just remember to breathe through it, and that on the other side of that fear is exactly what you want, and you can live right into that. I hope that helps. I hope that helps and gets at your question. All right, so we're not quite at an hour, but I'm feeling like there's a lot here, that there's some good information, there's some good stuff to work with. That fear is a signpost. Okay? It's an emotional signpost, and it's just a response. You are not your fear. You're certainly not your fear. You are bigger than your fear, and you can move through it. Remember to breathe, because your fear is excitement without the breath. And if you do the work, if you work through it and do the exercises and get that support behind you, whether it be from a spouse, a coach, a friend, a sister, or a brother, to have that support and know that you can let it go. Let go of the attachment to the outcome that taking those actions may or may not produce. Let go of that. Breathe through it and take the actions courageously. So thank you for spending the time with me, and I hope this helps you. I know it has helped me tremendously to work through this and to do this and to be here for you in this way. I absolutely know and have no doubt that through working through your fears, you can create a life you absolutely love living. You have the power to do that. Never forget it. With love and all my best wishes for you and your success and happiness, this is Angela Winfield. Take care.